Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. But this episode is dedicated to one of our good friends, Mr. Ken Johansson of Rigo's Rag. Obviously, he has a medical situation going on. Today is a really rough day for him, and we just want to let him know that he's not alone and that today's episode is for Ken Johansson. And if you guys want to show your support, please comment on the YouTube page and just say, we got your back, Ken. We want to show the support for Ken. He's having a hard time. But returning guest, Mr. Austin Gayle from Pro Football Focus. I saw your you had a little interview on NFL Network recently. They gassed you up, Austin. I loved it.
A little bit, and that was wild. It was cool to sit down with those guys. It's been a long time coming to get on there. I've been trying to get on there for a while, but Brandt, Schrager, Slater, all those people are really cool. It was awesome to get on the TV.
Absolutely. And then I saw recently that you have uploaded your top wide receiver rankings because obviously the Commander's sitting at 11. It is a point of emphasis for this fan base and the team to get another wide receiver in the room. So I'd love for you to break down for us what your rankings are for wide receiver heading into the draft.
Yeah, I am not super high on this receiver class, at least as much as I was. I mean, it's been hyped up, right? I think you look at Daniel Jeremiah, I think he had 8 receivers in his top 50. I don't see it that way. I think there's a lot of high-end wide receiver 2s in this class. And are there guys that could be wide receiver 1s in the NFL, like true alpha, 10 to 15 target types? Absolutely. But I also think that there's a really good chance that a lot of these guys end up being really productive wide receiver 2s, specifically the ones at the top. Right now, I see this top tier as USC Drake London as my wide receiver 1. And it's not that he is not that different than, I think, the difference between Drake London and even my wide receiver 6 is not as vast as it is in previous classes, right? I don't think I'd take any of these receivers over guys last year. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, I think all would rank ahead of any receiver in this class. But Drake London is my wide receiver 1, really confident in him as a player. At 2, I do have Chris Olave. I'm a huge Chris Olave fan. I've been a fan of his since 2 or 3 years ago. I think he's one of the more productive players, and he's still really produce in that Ohio State offense, despite so many, mouths to feed, right? With Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, there was so much talent there. My wide receiver 3 and that closing out that top tier is Jameson Williams. And I think he'd be my wide receiver 1 if it weren't the late injury, right, in the national championship where he does tear his ACL. After that, round out my top 6 here. It's Garrett Wilson of Ohio State, then Traylon Burks of Arkansas, and then Sky Moore, one of my favorite receivers in this class. Group of 5, Garrett Wilson, Sky Moore coming out of Western Michigan. So that's my top 6 right now. I have some others as well, but that's how I view it.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with just about everything that you said. I don't think that anybody in this class, as deep and good as it is necessarily a true alpha go-to target right now. I mean, like you said, they could be, but somebody that Washington's been connected to, and you mentioned him, is Chris Olave. I think that Washington fans are really starting to warm up to the idea of the Commanders taking him at 11. Just in case, what can Washington fans expect to him? What kind of player is he? And who is a player comparison that you have for Chris Olave?
Chris Olave, my player comparison, I can't think of anything better, right? It's Calvin Ridley. I think he is a Calvin Ridley clone. Wow. He's not his biggest Achilles heel is he's not good after the catch. I think he averaged less than 3 yards after the catch over the course of his career at Ohio State. Calvin Ridley, before the suspension, was very average after the catch, if not significantly below average after the catch. But a big reason why for that is he won down the football field, right? Average depth of target or average depth of completion has such a high positive correlation to how much yards you're getting after the catch, right? If you're getting pump screens, your yards after the catch total is going to be a lot better than if you're winning down the football field. And I think that's where Olave wins. He could run the full route tree. I don't think you can say that about every receiver in this class. And he wins down the football field against man and off zone coverage concepts. And people, winning outside receiver reps against off-zone coverage is very difficult in today's NFL. And it's difficult at the college level too, right? From the slot, it's a little bit different. I think you saw a lot of slot wins against off-zone on Jahan Dotson's tape that are less impressive, but winning against off-zone at the collegiate level on the outside is really impressive. And of any receiver in this class, he has the highest yards per out run average at outside receiver. Huge fan of his game. I think he's going to go behind probably London, Wilson, and Williams, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the most productive players in this class.
Yeah, definitely love that player. Another guy that's been he's been visiting Washington with Chris Olave as well is Kenneth Walker, the third out of Michigan State. Antonio Gibson had that fumbling issue last year. They brought back J.D. McKissick. Do you think that Washington would be a good fit for Kenneth Walker the third?
I think so. I think he's a good fit, right? I think coming from PFF, we always advocate against spending resources elsewhere. And I'm not super high on this running back class. Kenneth Walker is my lone tier 1 running back. And it's because of the force miss tackle ability, right? He's easily the best tackle breaker in this class. And we've seen time and time again that translate to legitimate NFL success. And he checked a lot of the boxes at the combine. I don't know how much I'm buying that sub 4.4 speed. I think that was a bit of a fast track there in Indy, but still fast enough, right? Fast enough to hit the home run, physical enough to win after contact. Massive concerns in pass protection. I think his technique needs to be completely reworked. And he's not a hands catcher, right? He's a grasper. He hauls in the ball and lets that hit him in the chest oftentimes. And that's not going to work, right? But the stat I keep leaning into in this pre-draft process is that only 6 running backs in the NFL last year played more than 60% of their team's offensive snaps. You're not drafting starters, right? There's only a handful of actual starters at that position anymore. You rarely see 300 touch guys, right? And the guys that are starters are ones that they've heavily invested in. Najee Harris played 81% of the Steelers snaps last year. Ezekiel Elliott in that tier. Dalvin Cook in that tier, right? It's guys that, you paid a lot of money and you drafted them highly. Obviously need to be a bell cow in your offense, but more oftentimes with Kenneth Walker, you're probably going to get him third, second round type of player. These guys are more complementary pieces of what you have in your backfield. If you're looking for a tackle breaker that's not going to offer a ton on passing downs, I think that's what Kenneth Walker is.
Yeah, and then Damian Pierce is another guy I've seen come through it for the visits as well. But let me next question I have for you. This draft class is kind of weird. It's not the same as previous draft classes. So my question is, what blue chip players or prospects are there in this draft, in your opinion?
Blue chip, man, it's tough. I do think the offensive tackle class is really good. I think the offensive tackle class is phenomenal. Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, I'd even put Charles Cross in that tier. I think Aiden Hutchinson's a blue chip type of player. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is a blue chip type of player. I think those guys are blue chip in this class. Now, you compare them to previous draft classes, honestly, this past, we were kind of, spoiled in 2021, right? Micah Parsons, Patrick Surtain, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, 5 first-round quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. It was insane. And now you compare it to this year's class. I mean, how many players are you really picking in the first round, right? How many players are you picking ahead of last year's class? I think there's a lot of guys I'd rather have last year. Parsons, Surtain, all of the quarterbacks compared to this year's quarterbacks, all of the top 3 receivers compared to this year's receivers. So it is a down class. Does it have depth? Yeah. I don't want to talk about too much, is it a bad draft class? That's not true. It just doesn't have as much blue chip talent as the previous year, specifically at high value positions, receiver, quarterback. I think there's only a handful of cornerbacks at the top that you really love. And then after that, there's a pretty big fall off. So I like offensive tackle. There's some really good edge players, some good depth players as well.
Right. So this next one, it's going to sound longer, but you can answer it fairly fast. So Washington's been connected to a lot of linebackers, and justifiably so. That is a need. There is a trio of Georgia linebackers out there that are all, of course, deservedly so, very well thought of. What are the differences between Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, and Nakobe Dean, or how would you describe their games?
Yeah, Nakobe Dean does not get enough credit, in my opinion, for his instincts. I think he's one of the more instinctive off-ball linebackers in this class. Everyone wants to bring up, oh my gosh, the athleticism. Anytime you bring up any Georgia player on that defense, right? It's like closing speed, it's athleticism, it's changing direction.
Got to be the most athletic defense of all time.
It has to be.
Outside of Darian Kendrick.
At least the fastest, right? At least the fastest. Yeah. It's insane in the 10-yard split stuff that they put out. And the other linebackers you highlighted, I think the Devin Lloyd is a Fred Warner clone, right? I think I see a lot of similar tape to Fred Warner, another Utah player. Obviously, he played for BYU, and Devin Lloyd's coming out of Utah. I think they're very similar players. Good tape, really good against the run, instinctive too, good length, way better length, obviously, than Nakobe Dean. Concern there, though, is, that was a man playing against boys at Utah. 24 years old, he'll play at this year as a rookie. We haven't even seen that season from Nakobe Dean, right? It'll be a while before we see that season from Nakobe Dean. So there's a little bit of a concern there, right? And I think it's important when you do highlight off-ball linebacker, highlight any age for positions. It's not that, oh man, he's going to be 28 by his second contract. That's not the concern. The concern is if you're only a man amongst men, or a man amongst boys when you're older than them, that's the concern. But if you can show that you're a boy that can play like men against men when you're 19, 20 years old, dominating against top flight competition, that's what's more impressive, right? So I do think there's some concerns there. I'd rather have any of the day 2 linebackers right? Day two, top of day three linebackers than I would take, with Devin Lloyd or a Nakobe Dean up top. I love Chad Muma out of Wyoming, Leo Chanel out of Wisconsin, Darian Beavers out of Cincinnati, Brandon Smith, Penn State, Christian Harris, Alabama. There's a lot of starters at that position specifically in this year's draft. I think it's one of the deeper positions in this year's draft that you can get on day two, day three, that I think the value makes more sense, right? Going after them than going after a Lloyd or a Dean on round one.
Right. What about the other two linebackers from Georgia? What about Channing Tindall and Quay Walker? Do you view them at similar day two?
A lot of the people I talk to think Quay Walker is going to sneak into the first round. There's a lot of people high on Quay Walker. I think Quay Walker is going to go a lot higher than people think. I don't think it's just because he played for the University of Georgia. I think he's a really talented player as well. He's a top 100 player on PFF's draft board. We right now have Channing Tindall ranked slightly ahead of Walker. I think some of that, a lot of that's just closing speed. 6'2", 230. The guy's 10-yard splits, just like insane. And if you leverage him as kind of this pointed gun type of off-ball linebacker, think Rashaan Evans in Tennessee, where it's like, look at the ball and go get it. Don't necessarily ask him to turn his back in coverage. I think Tyndall can be really productive. Walker, somewhat similar, right? But the concern I have, with those types, right? Those types of off-ball linebackers, that it gets more difficult when, say, defensive scheme changes, right? You get a new defensive coordinator, you don't have that type of linebacker in your defense. I don't think that gets talked about enough, specifically with defensive players. And Mike Renner, my podcast co-host, brings this up all the time. Scheme becomes more important in evaluation the further you get away from the ball. Interior defensive line, you can make things work. Edge defender, we'll find a way. Cornerback, off-ball linebacker, safety, it's like, hey, you look at Corey Littleton, one of the highest graded off-ball linebackers in the NFL when he played with the Rams. He goes to the Raiders and he stinks. He can't figure it out and everything's moving too fast for him. That can happen with draft prospects too, right? It's not as simple as I need a linebacker, I'll go get the next best one. It's like, does this guy fit in my defense now? Can we invest in him and develop him moving forward? A lot of that matters. So not everyone's going to have the same linebacker board. It's really going to depend on what your defensive coordinator looks in one.
And sticking with the defense side of the ball, a player that was highly talked about coming into the draft, maybe even as the best player, was Kyle Hamilton. And it seems that a lot of mock drafts have him slipping outside of the top 10. I just want to ask you, why do you think that is, that maybe he's slipping out of the top 10? And would he be a great fit in Washington behind that front seven?
Yeah, I think some of it, honestly, is positional value, right? It's the same reason Linderbaum is falling far, even though he's got some of the best tape of any player in this class. Shorter arms, not great measurables, and not a high-value position. Hamilton's somewhat similar, right? The measurables weren't great. You wanted to see 4.5 speed or whatever it was, and better quicks there. And he's a low value position. I still think he's a top 10 player in this class. I'd take him in the top 10. I'd be surprised if he gets by Washington at 11, Houston at 13. I think that's where his range really is. And for Hamilton too, right? I think it's important to call out that Jamal Adams didn't crack 4.5s. Justin Simmons didn't crack 4.5s. There's players in the NFL that have success at deep safety and multiple safety alignments that aren't burners. It's more important that you're getting to the ball first. The instincts are there. The size is there. I love his size. And talking to Brian Kelly, who's coached him obviously his entire career, now coaching for LSU, he said he's the most versatile player he's ever coached. And I buy into that a lot more than looking at a 4.7 4-yard dash and saying, man, I don't think he has the range, all that stuff.
Yeah, Harrison Smith is one player that I brought up as a defense with Kyle Hamilton. I feel like they are very similar in that way. But my last question for you, I got for you here, Austin. You brought up Peter Schrager earlier, and he had a tweet earlier today saying, Washington Commander fans, would you trade Terry McLaurin for the Packers' 22nd overall pick? So real quick, Austin, do you think Washington should do that?
No, I don't think that makes it doesn't make any sense in what they're trying to do. You don't make the bet on Carson Wentz with a second and a third rounder, essentially, just to botch this. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you should pay Terry McLaurin. You should leverage him to develop a quarterback that hasn't had a lot of success of late. You trade Terry McLaurin, it's kind of a waste, right? For Carson Wentz, right? I think the biggest thing for the Washington Commanders is they are entering a new era, obviously, a new era with this team. And they wanted to make an investment in a quarterback that could come in and win effectively, right? And what Carson Wentz doesn't do for this team, in my opinion, is make them Super Bowl competitive. But what it does do is it avoids them from bottoming out, right? Say they punted on quarterback in free agency, and at 13, they just, or at 11, they take the best quarterback available and say it's Sam Howell or whatever. They might go 2-15 next year. And that's, I don't think, what they want, right? When you're building up this new era, right? You're building up this new productivity. I think that's what they want. Now, I think they made the wrong bet on the veteran quarterback that's available, right? They traded for Carson Wentz with a second and a third when I would have much rather seen them spend less resource, right, and go sign Marcus Mariota. I mean, hell, Matt Ryan was cheaper. I think Matt Ryan's a bit of an upgrade. So I have some concerns there. I didn't love the trade for Carson Wentz, but now that you did it, to move on from Terry McLaurin or hell, Chase Young, it doesn't make any sense, right? Aren't they trying to be playoff competitive? I don't think I would buy into that.
I love you even more now, Austin. I can't thank you enough for taking some time out for us. I know you have a heart out here very soon, so I want to make sure you have time to do that. I can't thank you enough for being able to make some time out for us, Austin. You're the man. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we can get you on after the draft so we can do some post-draft analysis.
Absolutely. Best time of the year. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, Austin. Have a good one.
Weekend.
You too.
That guy is just a trove of knowledge, isn't he?
He's just he's like a human library, it's just knowledge on knowledge.
Just straight up knowledge. Now, before we get into our first round full mock draft, we're going to be doing with our second guest here soon that's going to be joining us. Well, let's get into some fan questions. And the first one is from Digital Guru in the Discord chat server. Is anyone disappointed that the Commanders did not re-sign DeAndre Carter, Reed?
Disappointed. I think disappointed is too strong of a word. Of course, we all like DeAndre Carter. He did well as a return man. He did all right. He got on the field mainly because of a lack of talent, I think, and he has a unique skill set. But am I disappointed? No. I mean, it is what he's just like. He's a jag, to be completely honest with you. It is what it is. We can find another kick returner easily in the draft. There's still some out there in free agency. We can find somebody to fill his role in the draft, or there's other guys out there in free agency that are more proven at receiver still. So, am I disappointed? No. Did I like the guy? Yes, but it is what it is. It's the nature of the beast.
I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed that DeAndre Carter's not coming back. I thought the guy obviously did really well here, and I thought that he earned the ability to return. But the other side of it is, maybe this is a win-win situation for both parties. DeAndre Carter was on his fourth team in 4 years, obviously coming here. Not that many people had a lot of stock in him. He was one of those late summer kind of signings, and he did really well for us. So it projects.
We always forgot about him when we talked about the
it projects him more higher up to the point where he was able to get another job this time in early April, obviously progressing. And so it was a situation where both parties benefited from it. And I'm happy for DeAndre Carter, but it's not like DeAndre Carter is Devin Hester or anything like that. Let's calm down. He was very clutch for us. He won us some games. I know that. I know that more than anybody. But the fact is, you have to look at it for next season. Can you guarantee that DeAndre Carter would be getting those offensive snaps next season, given with the wide receiver group, especially if they draft one in the first round? That's just me. Anything, Hall?
Yeah, you guys pretty much hit all the points I was going to make. One other thing to add is, like you said, he was a late summer signing, and it's not like they don't have a guy that can't return kicks. Dax Milne did it in college, punt returns, that is. But also, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say DeAndre Carter, when he signed here, no one knew he was going to turn into DeAndre Carter. So I would say that, yeah, he was great for us, number 3 in yards per return in the NFL. But at the end of the day, they can make another move late summer, and we could have the next DeAndre Carter on our roster all of a sudden. So
right, yeah, he's another guy that's one of the low level players that we've signed that has produced for us a bargain bin, and we ended up look at how the fans feel about him. So guys, it's okay that we haven't signed big names yet.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Now, the next question that we have is from Scouse Andy in the Discord chat server, who just got into our Discord chat. And so it's awesome to be able to have him having a question here. And it is, what would you do if we took Matt Corral at 11, Hall?
I would bang my head against the wall because I feel like it would just be a repeat of Philly, Carson Wentz all over again when they took Jalen Hurts in 2020 and he came out and had the worst year of his career. And I would really question that front office, like, what is the actual future plan of this? Like, what is the plan here? So it's not going to happen, so I don't got to worry about doing all that stuff. But, yeah, that's what I would do.
I don't even want to go into what I would do if we were to take Matt Corral at 11. I'd probably I would have to shut off my Twitter for like 24 hours. I'm sure I would get berated. But no, dude, I would be pissed, to be frank about it. Matt Corral's not that good. I personally, just based off the situation here, he could obviously be a very good professional based on the system that he goes. I won't say he's not good. Obviously, he's very good. I'm just saying, based on where we are as a team and everything, wanting to extend down the field, I know Matt Corral has a lot of arm strength. I just don't trust what he'll do to be successful, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it would just be a waste of a pick, and you guys basically hit on everything. But I will just say the only Corral that I want at 11 is Golden Corral tonight. All you can eat steaks, baby. Woo!
And this next question is from Sergio Martin. I'll keep this with you, Reed. It's a long one. Let's say we pick wide receiver at 11. Then we have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Sims, De'Ami Brown, Humphreys, Dax Milne, obviously, and then plus Antonio Gibson, McKissick also getting the ball consistently, plus Logan, Bates, and Reyes. He sees a lot of weapons for Wentz to succeed. What do you think, Reed?
I completely agree. I think that this is going to be the most weapons Carson Wentz has had around him. Yeah, you can make the argument in his career. He's never had a wide receiver like Terry McLaurin, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, he's had 2 fantastic tight ends. He's had some decent receivers, but when Curtis Samuel's healthy, people forget how good he is. If we get a first-round pick, let's say we get a Chris Olave, somebody who's that sharp and would really fill a role perfectly as a number 2 wide receiver, and then De'Ami Brown, you have him in his potential. Like you talked about, this would be a fantastic offense and something that I would not sleep on, man. You got a 1,000-yard back who just played his second year in the NFL. You got a top 6 O-line. They should be even more improved, and an offensive coordinator who's willing to prove that he's not the thing that held us back last year. I would be scared of this offense.
Yeah, I would be too. And I wholeheartedly believe that, yeah, this is a offense that is set up to succeed, especially if they get a wide receiver in round 1. But our mock draft is coming up here very, very shortly, guys. I promise. So you'll be able to see that in full scale. So we'll see what we decide there. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, like you said, I definitely think that if you add another wide receiver, like maybe a Chris Olave, who's getting comparisons as a fast Keenan Allen as far as like his technique, route running, stuff like that. So I would definitely you insert that into an offense to go with Terry McLaurin and all the weapons that other people that you added. Obviously, like Reed said, Curtis Samuel has to be healthy. He's that kind of chess piece you move all over the board. And at the end of the day, that's a lot of speed on the field. And in today's NFL, speed kills. So I would definitely – if everyone's healthy, ready to go, I would be scared of this offense.
Yeah. And now our next question is from Twitter. Our guy, Commander OC, Orange Crush 92.
The GOAT.
When do you think the first wild draft pick will happen, and who will it be? Wild, as in someone who jumps like 2 to 3 rounds on draft day, or nobody ever saw it going in the first round until draft day? Hall.
I'm probably going to steal yours, Kyle, but I'm going to say, even though it's been – am I still there? Did I freeze?
No, you're good. I can hear you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even though in NFL circles, obviously the buzz has been around there, it's growing even more and more. I think Desmond Ridder is up going to go in the first round. Maybe it'll be like a Ravens situation where a team trades back into the first round to get that 5th-year option on him as well. And I definitely think that, like I said, that's a name that's been growing since his pro day, since the combine and whatnot, just through his interviews and everything like that. So I could definitely see Desmond Ridder being one of those people that are like, whoa, Desmond Ridder in the first round? That's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know who really we could say at this point that would be a surprise to go in the first round. But I guess I'll say someone like George Pickens or Jahan Dotson, just based on how the draft board is shaking out and everything. It looks like wide receivers are getting swallowed up a little bit in that first round. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go there. And I don't think it's that big of a surprise, but maybe I think the more surprise would be who falls out of the first round, if that makes any sense, OC. Like, I could see one of these defensive tackles falling out of the first round. You're like, whoa, Wyatt, why is he not going in the first or something like that? I could definitely see that happening. What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, so let's see. Usually when this type of move happens, it's usually a Raiders or a Seahawks move. You know, the Seahawks tend to do that a lot. Raiders don't have a first-round pick. Seahawks pick in the top 10. So it's going to be tough to see. But I know what you're talking about. It happens all the time. I could see maybe a cornerback going earlier because there's some teams that really need cornerbacks. So, like, really after you get past the top 5, then you kind of have Roger McCreary, Tariq Woolen, Kyler Gordon, Zion McCollum. Maybe you could see McCollum jump into the first round just because of his size, his athleticism, and he's more advanced, even though playing at a smaller school than Tariq Woolen, but they both have rare physical traits. But I could see one of the corners or somebody, possibly even a receiver like Sky Moore. I know he's being mocked a lot in the first round. I could see somebody like that going.
Yeah, then Christian Watson is another one, but Hall took mine. Desmond Ridder, douche.
Yeah, no, that's what I said in the beginning.
Our next question is from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi!
Oi!
What secret conspiracy would you like to start? And part 2, as a funny one, what's the weirdest smell you have ever smelled? So what secret conspiracy would you like to start, Reed?
Let's be real here. So one, I think a real investigation needs to be put in, and we really need to figure this out. Somebody needs to do an ancestry.com on Matt Corral, because I would like to find out what race he is. I think that this should be dive deep into. Sometimes he looks like a white, sometimes he looks Hispanic, sometimes he looks light skin black, sometimes he looks like a Pacific Islander. I don't know. Sometimes he's had cornrows. It just really kind of freaks you out. He's one of those people that doesn't really have a race. So I think we should, definitely. I would like to see somebody investigate that.
Yeah, what secret conspiracy would I want to start? Let's say Logan Paulson is the brains behind the organization in drafting and scouting.
Right. Or he's not really my best friend. That's a load of it, right?
Right. What's your secret conspiracy you want to start, Hall?
Raising rabbits for meat.
Say maybe the conspiracy that the Post keeps putting out these articles because maybe a rich millionaire wants to possibly buy the team. Oh wait, is that already like a conspiracy?
That's already a thing, yeah. Or Dan Snyder's a cyborg too. That would be tight.
Yeah, look, he's a lizard, like Alex Jones.
Lizard people run the world.
Dude, absolutely. And then what's
Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah, what's the weirdest smell you've ever smelled? I'll start this one. I remember one of my first days on the job site. We were down in Southeast DC working at Ballou High School, and I walked into this room, and it was horrible smell. And we kept looking around, trying to find out what was why this smelled so bad. It turned out that somebody had left a bottle of piss opened in the corner or up in the ceiling, and nobody found it or whatever. It just smelled horrible. I'll never forget that. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, mine's definitely gonna be from a job site as well. First time being on a job site, get into an elevator, and it's like a warm, hot, humid Maryland summer day, or a DMV day, which if you're from here, then you know what that is. But getting to the elevator, and all of a sudden you find out that there's been a porta john that has been sitting in there from the top floor all the way down, just going down, and they just get it from every single floor. And by the time you get into the elevator, it just smells like a big old, just porta potty. I can't even tell you the smell because it's that gross. So yeah, that was a horrible smell. Never forget it.
That's bad. So I'll do this one fast. For those of you who don't know, I have a little brother. He has Down syndrome. He's 5 years younger than me, 6 years younger than me. And at one time we were driving down to Nashville, Tennessee for my cousin Megan's wedding. We stopped at the hotel at night and got Chinese food. Next morning, we left early in the morning to continue the drive down to Tennessee. My brother got food poisoning from it, apparently. So all of a sudden, he starts yelling at me as I'm driving. He's like, pull over, pull over, pull over. I have to poop. And I'm like, all right. So I pull over and then I open the door of a gas station, run him in there. And I just hear a big flop. And I'm like, what was that? He was wearing gym shorts. And the teller was like, sir, come here. Is this yours? And I just smelled something. And it was just a big old turd on the ground. Yeah. It was so pungent. He made me clean it up too. It was like 6 a.m. And it was just it was one of those things that stung the back of your throat, you could taste it. And it was just so raw, so gross.
He said, is this yours? That's
yeah,
hilarious.
Yours?
I was like, well, it is, but it's not mine necessarily. But I wasn't gonna make it.
Who's gonna claim it? No, that's mine, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, I would if it was mine. I would have been proud of that. That was a Chipotle burrito. It was
my goodness. Yeah. All right, everybody. Speaking of Chipotle burritos, it is now time for the moment you've been waiting for, the first round full mock draft, all the way down the list. And we are joined by our returning guest, friend pod, Todd Pascal of Tay and Todd's podcast. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I am sorry I'm in the car. I won't be in here for much longer, but I'm excited to be back on the show because I know we've been trying to get it done for a while now.
You should road rage at somebody and let's record it. That would be sick.
I got you. Give me
throw an ice cup at him. Yeah, I got you.
All right, guys. Without any further ado, let's get this started. So we have these in order, right? We keep going down the list and we shifting these. We even have fan contributions that we'll be showing here. But the first overall pick is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the first person to pick that selection is Michael Reed. So Reed, who's picking the Jacksonville Jaguars? Who are they selecting?
The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to select Aiden Hutchinson with the first pick in the NFL draft. I'm of the mind that they still should go offensive line, but all reports are saying that they just love Aiden Hutchinson. He's somebody, I know that they really like Trayvon Walker too. He's a dark horse, but Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is just the guy right now who's got a very high floor. His ceiling, it might not be as high as somebody like Trayvon Walker, but you know what you're getting with him. The guy's produced. He's solid. He's a good all-around kid. He's a good football player, and they've already addressed their offensive line this offseason. I mean, them re-signing Cam Robinson almost kind of makes left tackle null and void. Like they just can't afford to do it that early in the draft. I think that they're going to end up taking an edge rusher. You can never have enough pass rushers, and they want to kind of revamp this Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense for Jacksonville. Aiden Hutchinson's style play reminds me a lot of Ryan Kerrigan, the guy that just has a constant motor at all times, doesn't blow you away with his moves and speed and everything, but he is capable of being able to get to the quarterback and create havoc, and that's somebody that could be on Jacksonville's defense for a very, very long time. We are all very well aware of Jacksonville's drafting prospects and then them leaving and not getting anything in return for it. Now let's move on to the second overall pick, the Detroit Lions, which is going to be selected by Mr. Todd. What are you selecting there, brother?
So we're going to have our first, I think, surprise, maybe not for some people, but the Lions are going to take Malik Willis. You have no future as long as you don't have a quarterback. Maybe there are other players who make more sense, and depending on how you look at it. But the Lions are taking Malik Willis because you have no idea what's going to happen next year. You have no idea what position you'll be in and what those quarterbacks look like. They love Malik Willis, so they're going to take him here. And even if they want Jared Goff to start, they can have some packages for Malik Willis where he can use his legs, he can throw the ball, and just be a bit of a threat now. And then, best case scenario, you've got your quarterback of the future. So they're going quarterback because you need a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a great pick for the Lions. So we had Thor Nystrom on not too long ago on this pod, and he talked about how the Lions front office and even actually offensive people on the offensive staff love Malik Willis. You wouldn't be surprised to see him go at number 2. And I totally agree with you, Todd. It would make a lot of sense for Malik Willis to go to the Lions there at 2. It just all the ducks lining up. That would make a lot of sense. Right. Now, the third overall pick is the Houston Texans, and yours truly is selecting for them, luckily. For the Houston Texans, I had them selecting Ikem Ekwonu, the offensive tackle. This dude is an absolute mauler, a gigantic man. And if you want to have a left tackle to be able to protect Davis Mills, who obviously they like him based on how he played last season. I know he was one of the better rookie quarterbacks last season, throwing the ball deep downfield. What is the quarterback's best friend? It's that left tackle, and they're going to start their team off right by getting Ikem Ekwonu and being able to solidify their back end for many, many years to come. And that'd be smart for the Houston Texans. Now, we move on to the fourth overall pick. My man, Mr. Michael Hall, is selecting for the New York Jets. Who are they selecting this time, brother?
Jets, Jets. The Jets are going to take Drake London at number 4. He's slowly coming into people's number 1 wide receiver in this class, obviously because of the injury to Jamison Williams. But you get another weapon for Zach Wilson to go with Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, who Elijah Moore had a pretty solid rookie year. You add another weapon to give to Zach Wilson, to give him the most weapons on offense possible. So they take Drake London for that red zone threat, and hopefully he's a centerpiece of that offense going forward.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the biggest surprises that we have in this first round with Drake London jumping all the way up to the 4 to the New York Jets. But it would make a lot of sense. They've been in all of these wide receivers, even in free agency and these trade acquisitions. They were there for Tyreek Hill. They were very invested in wide receiver. It would make sense that they would use the 4th overall.
Make a trade for DK Metcalf as well.
Right, exactly. My bad. I forgot about that. Now, that is a great pick by you, Hall. Now, our next pick is by our guy, Mr. Hefe Miles from the Discord chat server, who's going to be selecting for the New York Giants. For the New York Giants at number 5. Let's hear from Jeff.
Hefe here with the 5th pick in the 22 NFL draft. I'll explain it afterwards, but with the 5th pick in the 2022 NFL draft, the New York Giants select Evan Neal. I think this comes to a surprise that they don't go defense, but with Brian Dable, I think he wants to secure that offense and change that offense around really, and they have 2 picks later to address the defense with its needs. So Evan Neal, they finally get it right at offensive tackle.
And thank you to Jeff Hefe Miles for selecting Evan Neal, the offensive tackle, going to the New York Giants. They've needed some offensive line depth for a very, very long time, and that is the perfect prospect for the New York Giants. I actually hate to see them go there.
Yeah.
Now, our next pick.
Either side.
Yes, he can. And now the 6th overall pick, the Carolina Panthers, being chosen by Mr. Michael Reed. What are the Panthers choosing?
Me? I don't remember. Carolina. You know what? Hey, Carolina, you guys are one of the only teams out there, aside from Seattle, without a quarterback. They're going to go out there, and they are going to get old Whopper Jr. hands, Kenny Pickett. out of the University of Pittsburgh. I know Pickett is always an ironic name for a quarterback. It's almost like when Washington had a kicker with the last name Blewett. You know what I'm saying? But Kenny Pickett, man, he's accurate to all levels of the field. He's more athletic than people give him credit for. Everybody always forgets about his fake slide that he did that broke some ankles out there. I still like Kenny Pickett. He was one of my favorite of the quarterbacks when Washington was in the quarterback race. He's somebody who I felt comfortable with. He might not have as high of a ceiling as Malik Willis, but he does have a good floor, and I think you can get a very average starter. I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of Sam Bradford. I haven't heard anybody else really say that, but they're similar sizes. They're both athletic. They're both accurate with the football. I heard Joe Burrow a lot. He's not that cool. He's a dweeb. He wears gloves, but he's a good guy. He's a nice guy.
He's not that cool. That's so mean, dude. No, that would make a lot of sense.
Who's that cool?
The Panthers are like that wild card team in that first round because you don't know which way they are going to go.
They need a tackle. They need a quarterback.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to be able to depict what they're going to do there. Now, the Giants have 2 first-round picks, one at 5 and one at 7. This next pick is going to be chosen by our man, Mr. Todd. So what are the Giants doing here? Please don't make it a good pick.
It is.
They are, unfortunately for Washington, they're going to draft Kyle Hamilton at 7. They took Evan Neal, I believe, at 5. Their main need on offense, really outside of quarterback, is offensive line. They do that. They don't need a skill player here at 7. Honestly, their skill players are not terrible. Their defensive line is not terrible. They're taking the best player available, who also happens to be one of the best players on the draft, who I think will just come in and help you day one. I think it just makes sense for them to take Kyle Hamilton if he's there at 7 because they went offensive line at 5. So Kyle Hamilton to the Giants and a lot of disappointed Washington fans at 7 as well.
Yeah, getting Evan Neal and Kyle Hamilton, that is a great first round for them.
Except for Mark Tyler if they play him at free safety.
Oh, goodness. Why do you have
Mark
to do that? Now we move on to the 8th overall pick, and this is being chosen by me for the Atlanta Falcons, and they're going to choose the Ohio State wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. They don't have Calvin Ridley. They brought Marcus Mariota in the offseason. No more Julio Jones. What are they going to do at wide receiver? What's going on with Cordell Patterson? Garrett Wilson is going to come in right away and be the number 1 wide receiver for them and help them out a lot, being able to get the ball downfield. It's going to help out Marcus Mariota and Arthur Smith a whole lot offensively. Now, the next pick that we have is going to go to 9 to Michael Hall, the Seattle Seahawks.
They are going to go with Ahmad Sauce Gardner, cornerback from Cincinnati. They already have Quandre Diggs. They have Jamal Adams up there in Seattle. I think they want to get back to maybe trying to build the Super Bowl through the defense on the back end, try to recreate that Legion of Boom. So they take Ahmad Gardner at number 9, and they try to make him the focal point of the defense going forward as they try to get back into winning the West.
And that would make a lot of sense for Seattle. Pete Carroll is just known for getting these big, tall corners and being
compared
able
to Richard Sherman, right?
Right. And what was the other guy's name? Brandon Browner.
Old Adderall head. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That dude. Obviously, they love their big corners, and that would make a lot of sense for Seattle. Now, our next pick is going to be number 10, and this is going to be from our guy, Tony Franchise, who's selecting for the Jets with their second pick in this first round already. Let's hear what they're going to do.
What's going on, gentlemen? And with the 10th pick in the Burgundy and Gold podcast mock draft, the New York Jets select Derek Stingley Jr. I think this will be a solid pick for them. They can try to recapture lightning in the bottle like they did when Darrelle Revis was on their team. So I think this will be a good pick for them at this position, Derek Stingley Jr.
All right, and we just heard from Tony Franchise, Mr. Derek Stingley, who recently just had his pro day blowing everybody away on social media. He goes to the Jets, which obviously makes a lot of sense for them. Not only do they get their big wide receiver, a new talented target, they also get a good cornerback that could really start their defense. And like Tony said, they could kind of go back to the days of the Darrelle Revis, where obviously they were very, very good. But now this is the pick that everyone has been waiting for that watches this show. And that is the Commanders sitting at number 11. And Reed, you are making this pick, and I texted you this when you had to make the pick. Don't screw this up. What are the Commanders taking at 11?
Thanks for the pressure, Kyle. To be fair, I thought when we were doing this, I was going to have every 4 picks. I didn't know I'd be picking for Washington, but good things happen to good people. So I'm going to go with Colin Powell. I'm just kidding. No, Washington is going to select, and this could very well happen, wide receiver Chris Olave out of the Ohio State University. Look, it just makes too much sense. We've been linked to him. Ron Rivera showing up at the pro day, talking to him afterwards. Apparently, he fell in love with one of the Ohio State wide receivers for him running back to the huddle after each snap during his pro day. And I think that would be Chris Olave. It makes sense. He came in for a visit. He's here tonight, or he was here last night.
Yeah, he was here yesterday.
Not with me, but with them. So it just makes sense. Terry McLaurin's one of his best friends. What a better way to try to keep Terry here long term than to bring in one of his best friends that he gets to play with and sign a new contract. And he's just a perfect number 2 wide receiver. I mean, Austin Gayle just talked about it. I mean, the guy's built for it. He's one of the best route runners in the draft. He compared him to Calvin Ridley. I am very excited about it. And the more and more that I read and the more and more that I watch on Chris Olave, the more I am sold on him as, hey, we could take him at 11 and I'll feel perfectly comfortable with that.
Yeah, I absolutely love Chris Olave there at 11. Obviously, we would all love to be able to trade back, but if that's not possible, I think that's a home run with Chris Olave. Out of the 2 Ohio State wide receivers, I thought Chris Olave was the better wide receiver of them, just based on his contested catches, his route running ability, the speed. He looked like the more all-around typical wide receiver, and I think that you could plug him in right away and would take eyes away from Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin without a doubt. What do you think about the pick, Todd?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the like it makes the most sense of maybe any pick, maybe after Aiden Hutchinson, and I'm just all for adding weapons on offense. I think if Garrett Wilson's there, you think about him. I think if really any of these receivers are there, but Chris Olave, I think the fact that he is a technician, he can separate on his own. He kind of looks smaller than what he is. He's bigger than Garrett Wilson, although he tends to look smaller than Garrett Wilson. Yeah. But the fact that he can get himself open, aside from things like maybe getting off of press or contested catches, whatever, he is a good receiver who can come into the league and do what the receivers who have had success early can do, and that is create space for themselves. And he has 4.3 speed. So I love the pick, hands. And great hands, exactly. So you're giving Carson Wentz the best chance to succeed in the best wide receiver core he's ever had. I'm 100% on board, 100%.
And let's not forget, he's also experienced. He is Ohio State's all-time leader in touchdown receptions. So,
right, exactly.
What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, I agree with everybody that's on.
Yeah, no, I know you do. That's why.
I'm with Todd. Yeah, I'm with Todd. I've been banging the table for a first-round wide receiver since pretty much last season, honestly. Chris Olave, like we just talked about with Austin Gayle. A lot of people are comparing him to Calvin Ridley. I've heard that he's a fast Keenan Allen as far as route running technician and everything like that.
I love that.
So, and like you said, we just added Carson Wentz. You want to put as many weapons around him as possible. And a guy like Chris Olave with 4.3 speed, I mean, who would be better throwing him the ball than Carson Wentz on those deep crossing routes? So, great pick, and I definitely think that would add another weapon to Scott Turner.
You're absolutely right. Now, let's move on. Unfortunately, we have to move on from the pick. I would love to keep talking about it. The 12th overall, the Minnesota Vikings getting selected by Todd. What are they doing there, brother?
They are taking Andrew Booth Jr. They're getting some help in the secondary. I mean, look at the Vikings. A few years ago, they were known for their defense. A lot has changed since then, but they still have Adam Thielen. They still have Justin Jefferson. They still have Dalvin Cook. And they still have Kirk Cousins, who, whatever your opinion is of Kirk Cousins, he is capable of playing like a top 10 to 12 quarterback. So get some help on the defensive side of the ball, get some help in the secondary. You don't have an Xavier Rhodes anymore, who was playing at a very high level at one time. Get Andrew Booth Jr. if you're not too scared of the injuries, guy who's played at a very high level, and just help that defense out.
Yeah, and obviously in that division, Devontae Adams was there before, but Andrew Booth, one of the best on-ball defenders in this class of being able to break up balls. That's perfect for Minnesota. That would make a lot of sense for them. Now, the next pick is Houston, their second pick in this first round, and that's going to be picked by me. And I had them selecting Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon. The guy's a freak of nature, very long, a fantastic pass rusher. They go out and they get Ikem Okwonu immediately in that first round, one of the better tackles in this draft. So what's the next big need for them? It's got to be edge rusher. And Kayvon Thibodeau, one of the best in this draft. I think that he would be a great selection for them there at 13. Now the next one is – sorry.
No, they can go anywhere. Houston can literally go anywhere, but you're right. Watching Kayvon Thibodeau, what he was considered just a month ago, watching him fall to 13, they got to be ecstatic getting those two players.
That's like a high five after that pick, I would imagine, for Houston.
Yeah, or it's like a high five after that pick for Houston.
now the 14th pick is the Baltimore Ravens. Who are they selecting, Hall?
Yeah, we're going to go back-to-back edge rushers here. I'm going to take Jermaine Johnson, the second, out of FSU. He had played 12 games last year, 70 tackles, 18 for loss with 12 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. You have Derek Wolfe that came over from Denver last year to play with Baltimore. And you get another guy coming off the edge as well to kind of pair them together. And Baltimore looks to kind of bounce back from all the injuries last year on defense and on the offensive side of the ball as well. And they add another pass rusher to maybe attack these quarterbacks in this really tough AFC North.
Absolutely. I like that pick a lot for them. Baltimore just always gets ballers there, and that would make a lot of sense. Jermaine Johnson, watching his film, the dude is a nightmare as an edge rusher. Now the next pick at number 15, this is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, and we have the Colonel making this selection. So let's head out west and find out what the Philadelphia Eagles are selecting at 15.
Greetings from the mountains of West Virginia. Kyle, Hall, and Reed, just want you guys to know you're killing it. Love it. Haven't missed an episode in a year, and you've got the best guests lately. Just awesome. That said, with the 15th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles take, and somebody's really excited about this, Washington Husky Trent McDuffie. What do you think, Cliff? High five.
All right. Thank you, Colonel. One of the best contributors that we have to the show, consistent contributors, is always asking us questions, always keeping the stuff going. He has the Eagles taking Trent McDuffie, the cornerback from Washington. That would make a lot of sense for Philly. Obviously, they need some secondary help. That's one of the areas of concern for them. What do you think about that, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the pick. As we know, Darius Slay, he's a baller. Is he going to be back, or how long is he even going to end up being there when he is? And it just makes so much sense. They're another team that can go a lot of different places. Linebacker, you can go defensive tackle, you can go wide receiver. But I think it makes too much sense for them to take another cornerback, especially with, you got Dallas down there. We got Washington just loading up on wide receivers. New York's got some weapons now. So it makes perfect sense.
Yes, it does. Now let's keep it with you, Reed, for the 16th overall pick. The New Orleans Saints, obviously we know they switched picks with the Eagles. So what are the Saints going to do at 16, Reed?
The Saints are sprinting up to the podium in this scenario, and they're going to finally get that left tackle to replace Terran Armstead, because I said finally, but he just left. But they are going to select Charles Cross, the left tackle. It just makes too much sense. They're praying that he falls this far because there's a pretty big drop off. I like this offensive tackle class, but there's a pretty big drop off after Charles Cross to Trevor Penning and Bernard Raymond. So I think that they would be ecstatic. They get somebody who's athletic enough. He's got some very good tape. He's a very good pass protector. Really needs to work on the run game, but he's got good balance. He's nice and weighted. He's got heavy hands. I think that he can go in there and they can have 2 bookend tackles with Ramczyk now moving forward.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense for New Orleans. The rich keep getting richer, right? They let go of him, then being able to bring in Charles Cross, who's arguably a very, very good offensive tackle in this class. Now the next pick, the LA Chargers, sitting at 17. What are they doing, Todd?
They're getting maybe the best wide receiver in the draft if he didn't tear his ACL in the college football championship game. And Jamison Williams, I mean, talk about embarrassment of riches. Now, they did just re-sign Mike Williams. Keenan Allen really had a really good season, stayed healthy all year. He's got, I would say, 1 to 2 more years when you look at how these receivers are starting to move. Yep. But this 1 to 2 years where they will have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and then Jamison Williams, who may not contribute early on this season, but will start to contribute with Justin Herbert, who can throw the ball 70 yards down the field. Damn. And, an offense that really, that's the thought of it is crazy. And I think it will be too much for the Chargers to pass up if he's sitting there. So I think it's a perfect setup for Jamison Williams.
You're absolutely sorry.
They're going all in for a Super Bowl right now while Justin Herbert is on his rookie deal, and I'm all here for it. It sucks, but they're good for them.
You're absolutely right. And given the fact that he might not, like you said early on, and if something happens to Keenan Allen and they don't bring him back next season or something like that, obviously they have the perfect replacement for him, and he's going to be healthy at that time. I think that's a great selection by you, Todd. You nailed it.
Todd.
Now, the next pick is the Eagles at 18, and unfortunately, they're going to be having a good draft up to this point. With the 18th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to select Trayvon Walker, the edge rusher from Georgia, an athletic freak. Just this whole draft class of these edges in this first round are just phenomenal athletes, and it's going to be tough for Charles Leno and these other tackles having to go against Trayvon Walker, because obviously he created a lot of havoc there at Georgia in the SEC, and so he's going to translate that to the NFL. Hope you're ready, Charles Leno, because Trayvon Walker is coming. Now, the next pick that we have is for Michael Hall with the New Orleans Saints with their second pick in this first round. What are they doing, Hall?
They are going to go defense as well. They're going to get a great player that slid to them. A lot of people call him one of the best linebackers in the draft, if not the best. They're going to select Devin Lloyd. They're going to try to, like I said, New Orleans with Tom Brady there. You can try to get after the passer. You got Marcus Mariota coming in. You need a guy with they can run sideline to sideline with like Devin Lloyd's, kind of stick with him. And bolster up that defense a little bit more. New Orleans takes Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, and they have Demario Davis there as well at linebacker, but Devin Lloyd is very versatile. You can use him all over the line of scrimmage. That would make a lot of sense for them defensively. Just being able to mix and match these guys around the linebackers, that makes a whole lot of sense for the Saints. Now, the next pick that we have is number 20, which is going to go to our buddy, Mr. Dan Przaznik, picking for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I wanted to hit him up, let him go, look, you're picking this. Don't screw it up, Dan. Let's hear what he has to say.
With the 20th pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Matt Corral, quarterback, Ole Miss. I think he'd be a good fit. He could sit behind Money Mitch for a year, take the team to Golden Corral, buffet style. The kid's got a quick release. He's pretty fast in the pocket, so he reminds me of a young Big Ben. He'd be a good fit if Malik isn't there at 20. Matt Corral, Ole Miss, he's our guy.
And thanks to Dan, he actually did screw it up, picking Matt Corral. I'm just kidding, Dan. You did great. Matt Corral from Ole Miss going to Pittsburgh. That does make a lot of sense to them. It gives Matt Corral a year to be able to get up to speed to the NFL game. Obviously, they traded for Mitchell Trubisky, like Dan said, so it would make a lot of sense for them to bring in a replacement this year and draft one. Thank you, Dan. That was a great pick. Now, the next one, sitting at 21, the Sean Taylor pick. What are they doing, Reed, at 21 with the Patriots? Bill Belichick and company. Who are they picking?
Well, it seems like the Patriots always have one of these guys, and they are going to select cornerback Kaiir Elam out of the University of Florida. I might have butchered your first name, but it's all good, man, because the guy can play. 6'1.5", 191 pounds. He ran a 4.39 40. Of course, they lost J.C. Jackson this offseason. They let go of Stephon Gilmore last season. And Bill Belichick, they need their cornerbacks. He needs his cornerbacks to run his defense. They get somebody who's very athletic. He's seasoned after playing in the SEC. He's a physical freak. I mean, if you look at him, I was really excited to see what he would have jumped at the combine, but hey, it is what it is. And he's perfect for that scheme. He's somebody who can come up, he can press, he can play zone, he can stick to his guy in man. He's going to need a little bit of coaching, but he's not too far off from being one of the top corners in this draft.
Yeah, one of my favorite prospects from a couple years ago, Kyle Duggar, is a safety there as well, and just adding Kaiir Elam in there with them is going to be a deadly combination for Bill Belichick in that defense. Now at 22, the Green Bay Packers. Todd, who are they selecting?
I don't think any team needs a wide receiver more, or really any position more than the Packers need a wide receiver. Maybe the Falcons, who also need a wide receiver. The Green Bay Packers are going to take Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. I just think that, for one, I think his skill set will be maximized with Aaron Rodgers. You know, that like 4 or 5 times a game where Aaron Rodgers would just check to a quick throw to Devontae Adams. I think that sort of thing is perfect for Treylon Burks, who can make men miss. You know, he didn't run the fastest 40, but he plays faster than that. And then also just back shoulder fades. Again, another thing where you saw that connection with Rodgers and Adams. And I think that's another thing where Treylon Burks has that strength and that physicality to him when he wins in those situations. So I think it's a great pick. He's not the most refined wide receiver, but he is a very good player who will help them day one.
Yeah,
doesn't need to be with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball.
You're absolutely right. And then Treylon Burks, obviously in college, no disrespect to Arkansas, but he was basically by himself on that team. And so it would make a lot of sense for him to go to the Packers, where he's going to be the number one focus for Aaron Rodgers. Right. I think that's an easy fill-in, Todd. That's perfect by you. Right. Now, the next pick that we have here that I have for the Arizona Cardinals. No, I butchered it, didn't I? No, I did. No, I did butcher it.
I don't know. I'm not listening.
So the Cardinals are going with George Karlaftis, the edge rusher. I think that is a perfect fit for them. Obviously, Chandler Jones being gone, they need some more edge rushers. They have plethora of linebackers. I think that's an easy fit for the Arizona Cardinals, sitting there at 23 to go get the good pass rusher in George Karlaftis. Now at 24, the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, we have to say their name on here. It's going to be picked by Hall. I'm sorry, Hall. Who do you got
I
them
know.
taking?
Why you gotta do me like this, man? I got the Cowboys. They lost a couple of offensive linemen in the offseason, and they're gonna have to rebolster that line. Um, Everyone knows when Dak Prescott and his Dallas Cowboys team is at their best is when they're running the ball and passing the ball equally, kind of like playing that complementary offense. And so they got to rebolster the offensive line. I'm going to give them Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. I think that he can step in, probably be a day one starter for them. And like I said, try to rebolster the offensive line and get Zeke back on track. And as they look to kind of contend for the NFC title next year.
Yep, good for the Cowboys getting Trevor Penning. I'm just glad they're not taking Daniel Falal. I think that guy is an absolute warrior and a menace. Now let's move to pick 25. But we are going across the pond for pick 25, being the Buffalo Bills. Let's go to Scott Hartley in the UK, to find out what the Bills are selecting at 25.
Hi, Commanders Nation. Scott Hartley here, and with the 25th pick, the Buffalo Bills select Kenyon Green, guard, Texas A&M. He's an absolute monster, 325-pound behemoth. He can play in both guard positions and both tackle positions. They get massive position flex here, a great pickup by the Bills. Thanks for having me on, Kyle, Hall, Reed, seat neighbor for life. Take care, boys. Bye.
Seat neighbors for life, my man Scott. Thank you so much. And obviously, this is a great pick by the Buffalo Bills, getting Kenyon Green, one of the better interior offensive linemen in this draft, besides Tyler Linderbaum, obviously in the top end of this draft. Them going and getting him is just the rich get richer at this point for the Buffalo Bills.
They're another team that can go really anywhere. Like they can do whatever they want. They could go running back if they want, but that's a great pick by Scott. Absolutely.
Now the next pick is the Tennessee Titans sitting at 26. Reed, who are they selecting there?
Well, the Tennessee Titans are going to be selecting, and coincidentally, I'm sure that their board here would probably fill one of their biggest needs. They're going to be selecting Nakobe Dean out of the University of Georgia, linebacker, 5'11", 229 pounds. I mean, look, he's a 3-down linebacker. Mike Vrabel is going to love him. He's a throwback. They're also a dark horse for a quarterback here, but I think that this guy was probably the best/biggest name defender on an absolutely loaded Georgia defense last season. I mean, you can't take that away from him. I know some of the other guys, Quay Walker, Channing Tindall might be more athletic, but Nakobe Dean produced for a reason. This guy is fantastic, and I really think that he can elevate this defense and take him to another level. And they are going to go ahead and win that division again.
Yeah, that's a great pick by you. And Kobe Dean was somebody we were talking about at 11 early on in this draft process just because of what he brings to a defense, being that veteran stability there. Mike Vrabel, like you said, is going to absolutely love that. Now, at pick 27, Todd, who are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting? You're muted.
Here we go. The Tampa Bay Bucks are selecting Kyler Gordon, cornerback from Washington. The Bucks, they need help in the secondary. They still need help in the secondary. Kyler Gordon is from Washington. They've produced some strong cornerbacks. And, the Bucks, this 27 to 32 range can be tricky. Kind of feels like you're drafting guys who belong maybe in the second round, but there's not great value from guys in the first round. So it can be a tricky range, but I think they're taking a player who can help them in the secondary, which is a big position of need there in Kyler Gordon.
Yeah, that's very smart. Very smart.
And they can address guard on day two. Honestly, there's some good prospects there that they could look at.
Absolutely. Now, pick 28, the Green Bay Packers, their second selection in this draft. Who are they getting? They're going to get a stud defensive tackle, Jordan Davis from Georgia. The talent is just too good to pass up there from Green Bay. They need some defensive tackle help. Obviously, they have other needs. I know a lot of people are going to say they need another wide receiver, but there's plenty of depth at wide receiver in this class. And when you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, I know you want to give him weapons, but he's going to be able to pass the football well defensively, or you're going to be able to stop the run. And Jordan Davis is going to be able to do that for the Green Bay Packers defense. I think that is a shoe-in perfect fit for them. Now, at pick 29, the Kansas City Chiefs. Who are they selecting?
Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they lost Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. I think they need to replenish that wide receiver room. Obviously, they just brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling to kind of be that burner guy. I have them drafting Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. Definitely think he can, like I said, step in day one, be a playmaker for them. He can work all three levels of the field. He runs a 4.43 40, so obviously he has a speed. And he can stretch the field for a guy like Pat Mahomes who can throw it from one end to the other. So I think Andy Reid would have another weapon in his offense and would scheme him open for days, and it would just be a match made in heaven for Mahomes and that offense.
Yeah, I remember last season, the previous draft, I was watching film on some Penn State guy, and Jahan Dotson just kept blowing off the film. The dude was making spectacular catches, and I was like, man, I want to see more of this kid, and that would be an absolute perfect fit for them. Now, they have a second pick back-to-back in the first round here, and this one is selected by our guy, Michael Haas. So let's see what the 30th pick what the Kansas City Chiefs decide to go with.
With pick number 30 in the 2022 NFL Draft, Kansas City Chiefs select wide receiver, Georgia, George Pickens. Explosive, dynamic, playmaker, has a bit of an injury history, but violent. No peace signs, only fist.
All right, Michael Haas has the Kansas City Chiefs selecting George Pickens right behind Jahan Dotson. That obviously, we talked about the rich getting richer. That's just disgusting. They trade away Tyreek Hill for all those picks, and they immediately being able to bring in two phenomenal wide receivers add to that offense.
Right. First of all, I will say Michael Haas is never wrong. I will trust the guy with everything, always. And I really like the difference between the two receivers that they pick. They pick a big physical guy in George Pickens, and they get Jahan Dotson. I would have probably went Daxton Hill because they need a cornerback and a safety. But, hey, you can't question Michael Haas. The guy knows what he's doing. And Patrick Mahomes is ecstatic right now. What are the chances that he gets these two guys that are perfect for him to grow with?
Absolutely. George Pickens, that would be disgusting with Pat Mahomes deep downfield. We saw what he did in that title game, and that catch was just phenomenal. Now, the next pick at 31, Reed, is the Cincinnati Bengals. What are they selecting?
If this happens, the Cincinnati Bengals need to get a medal for completely being able to redo their offensive line. They're going to go up there. They're going to run to the podium, and they're going to select center Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. If he was a little bit bigger, this guy, there was times where people were saying that he could honestly be a top 3 prospect in this entire draft. They completely flipped that offensive line around. What was probably the weakest offensive line in the entire NFL. Now all of a sudden you got Jonah Williams, you have Karras, you have Kappa, you have Tyler Linderbaum, and you have La'el Collins. All of a sudden you got a very solid, good starting 5 to protect Joe Burrow. That team runs, and your boy, that team runs through Joe Burrow. Their success all comes down to Joe Burrow. You don't want him to get injured again like he did his rookie year. So they're going to do whatever they can to protect him, and they get the best center in the entire draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're coming to the 32nd overall pick here, and this is by Mr. Todd. With the last pick, what are the Lions doing at 32, Todd?
Yeah, sorry, my camera went out. But
You're good.
the Lions need good players everywhere, so they really can just take the best player that's available, and they're going to take Daxton Hill, the safety, who can also be a nickel cornerback for you. He can do a lot of different things, and I mean, at that point, like I said, I'm just taking the best player who's available on the board. I think he could go earlier than that. But again, the Lions, they took Jeffrey Okudah, so they're adding help to that secondary, and they got their quarterback. So I like Daxton Hill.
Love that. Yeah, love that pick for them.
Absolutely.
I love Daxton Hill.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming on for our first mock draft of the season. We'll be doing these mock drafts every Friday up until draft night. So if you want to be able to contribute, if you want to be able to pick one of these selections, make sure to reach out to us. I'll make sure to get you on the list, and we'll get it all set up and ready to go for you. Todd, I can't thank you enough for coming on here again, brother, and being able to give us your 2 cents. You know, obviously your points are very, very good. I'm glad that we were able to get you on here so we can bring some intellect into this draft class because we were not doing too well.
I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate you having me despite me doing so much while we've been recording this whole time. But this has been a lot of fun. So thanks for inviting me for this. I'm glad I was able to hop in here.
Of course, brother, and we'll see you again soon. All right, everybody, we will see you again on Monday. Make sure you guys are commenting on what's your thoughts. What do you think about the draft picks? Did we botch any picks? Do you think that we made a mistake here and there? And what do you think about Reed selecting Chris Olave at pick 11? We all love it, but we want to hear from you guys. What do you think of the pick? We want to hear your thoughts. All right, everybody, have a safe weekend. We'll see you again on Monday. And always remember, Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!